Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Impact Youth Online. My name is Meredith Maynard and I am the Summer Youth Assistant here at Williams, and I just want to say we are so glad you're here. Tonight we are starting a new series called Atypical, and it is all about families. In just a few moments, Russell is going to bring our message, but first I want to mention a few things about small groups. Small groups are such an important part of what we do here at Impact Youth. They are a place where you can meet with other students, share about what's going on in your life, talk about your struggles, and be accepted just as you are. We think everyone benefits from being a part of a small group. They are kind of like family. So at the bottom of your screen there is a code. We want you to text @ISMGroups to 81010, and when you do, we'll make sure to connect you with your small group leader for this semester. They will contact you with more information, like when you're meeting and more details. Again, we are so glad you are watching this and we are looking forward to this series. Now here's Russell with tonight's message.
I remember when I was in school and the teacher said it was time to do a project. I love projects. I did a leaf project where I had to collect a ton of different types of leaves and label them. I did projects on different historical figures and decorated poster board and cut out pictures. I even remember doing a science project. I determined which dishwashing detergent made the largest and most sustainable bubbles. But there was one project that I did which was kind of hard, but I think I learned the most from. And that was my family tree. I mean, do any of you have to do a family tree? Do you know what I'm talking about? You start with yourself, and then you draw two lines and you put your parents, and then you list their parents, and then your great-great-grandparents, and so on and so forth. And when you finish, you have this graph that shows all of your ancestors going back generations. The technical term for it is genealogy. It's the term used when you study your lines of descent or your ancestry of where you came from. And you can learn a lot about your family from studying your genealogy. Like when I was doing the research for this, I sat down and talked with my grandmother. And I asked her about everybody on the list, and she almost had a story for everyone. In listening to these stories, I discovered that I have some really weird family members. Like there was my uncle who didn't always think things through, and one time it was hailing golf ball-sized hail, and he realized that the cow was out in the pasture. So he went to get the cow and to put it in the barn to keep it safe, but he didn't want to get hit in the head with the hail. To protect his head, he just grabbed a metal bucket and put it over his head. And you can imagine what happened. With all the hail hitting the bucket, it was so loud that he couldn't hear anything but ringing for 2 weeks. I discovered that my family, some of them were normal, and then some didn't quite fit the mold of what we think of as a typical family. Have you ever taken a good look at your family and thought, are we normal? I mean, where do you look to see an example of a normal family? Maybe it's your favorite TV show, or The Brady Bunch, or Fuller House, or This Is Us. Or maybe you look at celebrity families like the Kardashians, or Duck Dynasty, or the Royal Family. Or sometimes we look at our friends' families, maybe what they post on social media, and think that must be a normal family. Let me ask. I mean, compared to other families, you know, how normal is your family? Super normal, kind of normal, not so normal, totally not normal. Here's what I want you to do. If you're following along live, I want you to take a minute and comment in the YouTube comments. Or if you're with your small group, then maybe take a moment to answer this question. What does a normal family look like? What would you say was a typical family? Go ahead. I'll give you a few seconds to respond. The families we watch on TV or the movies usually aren't normal. Even what we see portrayed on social media isn't normal. And maybe that's because normal doesn't make for great entertainment. We love the drama of watching the stories of not so normal families. But when it comes to our own families, we probably feel a little differently. If you've had a not so normal family, there's probably times you wish your family looked more like other families. Or maybe your family is pretty normal but a little quirky and you love that. Or maybe your family feels too normal and you sometimes wish there was something a little different or more interesting about them. Or maybe your family looks normal on the outside, but there are some not so normal things about it that you don't like to talk about. No matter what kind of family you have, I hope you know that you and your family matter and are loved by God and by us. No matter what you think about your family, no one truly has a normal family, and that's okay. Because no family's perfect, even the ones that seem normal. If you're like me, you probably have had a time in your life when you've thought, my family's weird and dysfunctional, or my family doesn't understand me, or maybe even I wish I had a different family. But know this, no matter how imperfect, how abnormal or dysfunctional you feel your family is, I want to tell you about a family in the Bible. We're going all the way back to Genesis. Adam and Eve were not just the first not-so-normal family. They were the first family ever. And imagine a world where your life is always good and you never have to worry about where you're going to get food or where you're going to sleep or needing money to live. All you have to do is wake up and live a life of joy and complete peace 24/7. That's what it was like for Adam and Eve. You see, God designed this family to live a life of closeness with Him and with each other. But because of their choices, everything changed. God put them in charge of the garden with one rule: don't eat of the tree of knowledge. But all it took was a few words from the serpent. The serpent telling them that if they ate of the fruit, that they would be like God. And so they ate, and they disobeyed, and they chose selfishness over trust. They lost their innocence in the Garden of Eden and the access to God they once took for granted. They gained shame in a new, more difficult life, and a cycle of sin that wouldn't just impact them, but would impact their future children and the entire world. This family started off with so much hope and promise, but their poor decisions led to pain and loss and damaged relationships and brokenness. And what was God's response? Yes, God was disappointed, and there were consequences for their actions, but God still took care of them. Despite their mistakes, God did not leave this family hopeless. After Adam and Eve get banned from the garden, they had two sons named Cain and Abel. And Cain was filled with anger, and he killed his brother and lied about it to God. Talk about not normal. But if you read the story, even through all of that, God still took care of and watched after Cain. Despite his mistakes, God didn't leave Cain hopeless. And so the story of the first family starts with hope and promise in a Garden of Eden and moves quickly to failure and betrayal and jealousy and anger and tragedy. And you might wonder, what good could come from their story? How could God use such a messed up situation? But the truth is this: their story is greater than their worst moments. It's through Adam and Eve and Cain that after many generations, the Savior of the world is born. The birth of Jesus was a fulfillment of the promise God made to Adam and Eve all the way back in Genesis, that someday a child would come and crush evil forever, and He did. God never gave up on Adam and Eve's family, and He's never going to give up on yours either. Despite our mistakes, God does not leave us hopeless. Every family, even yours, can be used by God. I know that some of you are thinking, maybe someone else's, but not mine. God couldn't use my family. Do you know how messed up it is? But I want you to take a moment and think about your family. Picture everyone in it. Think about the time you spend together and reflect on your family for a moment. And answer these questions. What sometimes feels imperfect about your family? How has God been good to your family? How does your family need God's help? How might God be able to use your family for good? How do you think God might want to use you for good in your family story? So your family may not be normal. It may be what we call atypical. What if God is calling your family to be even more atypical? What if God's calling your family to be set apart, to be different than others? What if you invited God to take your family's imperfections and problems and struggles, and He used them for good? There is no family too simple or complex for God to use. Maybe some things about your family can't be fixed. Maybe some people will never change. But your family can be used by God to do atypical things in this world. And it might start with you. Because not so typical families are often used by God. And yours can be too.
Darkness tries to roll over my bones, when sorrow comes to steal the joy I own. Brokenness and pain is all I know. Oh, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. I am not a captive to the lies. I'm not afraid to leave my past behind. Oh, I won't be shaken. No, I won't be shaken. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. This power that can break off every chain. This power that can empty out a grave. This resurrection power that can save. This power in your name. Power in your name. This power that can break off every chain. This power that can empty out a grave. This resurrection power that can save. This power in your name. Power in your name. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. My fear doesn't stand a chance when I stand in your love. Standing in your love. I'm standing on the rock. I'm standing in your love.
We hope you enjoyed this message, and we hope you know that no family is normal and that God can use your not-so-normal family to do awesome things. As we close, I want to remind you about signing up for small groups using the code below. Also, we'd love for you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.